This video is not meant to target or harass anyone in particular or incite targeting or harassing anyone. It is simply for entertainment, and you can take the advice that I will give with a grain of salt. If you like any of the things that I'm going to mention throughout this video, that is okay. There's this video from Solar Sands from 9 years ago titled Art Things I Hate, and it sounds a little bit tough. I have to say, Solar Sands has largely moved away from that type of content, and he makes really good stuff today, so you should check him out. However, that video gave me a couple of ideas. There are some things in the art world that I notice a lot of people tend to dislike, so I decided to make a video about them with a couple of ways to fix them. The first one is shaky and hesitant lines. This can also be called petting the lines. It gives your drawings a sort of fluffy appearance even when you're not really going for that effect. And the way in which I was able to fix this for myself was to learn to draw from the elbow instead of from the wrist. When you're drawing with your elbow, you have a larger range of movements, so you can make smoother lines. Although it still takes a lot of practice and you gotta draw a lot of things and experiment with drawing at different scales in order to master that. Next up are mismatched and overly bright colors. I actually made a video where I was trying to figure out if my characters could be considered Mary Sue's, and one of the hallmarks of a quote-unquote Mary Sue character is bright and mismatched colors that don't really make much sense. Granted, this does tend to overwhelm the average person. Of course, there's a lot of people who are able to utilize bright colors to their advantage and make really beautiful pieces with it. But generally, I try to strike a balance between bright and muted colors. If you are stuck and you don't know how to get a nice color palette, you can try getting a color palette generator or just finding one on Google Images. Or you can take a picture of something in real life and just swatch the colors from that. There are also many color theory schemes that you can try to adapt. So you can go with two colors that are complementary. You can do split complementary. You can go with one color and just adjust the brightness of it. You can go with analogous colors or a triad of colors. There's really a lot of ways to go about this. Next up, we have amazing rendering but bad anatomy. I was absolutely 100% guilty of this. I think in my case, the problem was that I didn't really have an art teacher or somebody who's experienced enough to help me put together a plan on how I was going to improve and what kind of things I was going to practice. So I was just practicing them one by one. I didn't really know in which areas I lacked. I knew I really liked the color, and because of that, my color theory improved at a faster rate than the rest of my art. The way to fix this is obviously to practice other things. Don't just be watching tutorials on how to color and how to render and things like that. Granted, if there is an aspect of drawing that you like more than others, it's easier to get caught into only doing that. Which leads into my next point about doing the same thing over and over again. This can be pretty hit or miss. There's a lot of people who, if they're trying to build an audience, they seem to get an audience because they only draw one thing that appeals to a group of people that don't really find this content anywhere else, and they get kind of successful like that. But in art schools and in the art world generally, you don't really want to be sticking to only drawing one thing because you're really going to stunt your development. That is if you want to improve. There's people who draw only for fun, and that's okay. There's people who only doodle periodically in their notebooks and they're having fun drawing like that, and that's fine. But this is more for the people who actually might want to potentially look into getting an art career later or using their art in any kind of professional setting. You really should be expanding your range of the things that you draw because eventually they will all come in useful at some point. Now, when you are putting together a portfolio or a social media page, you don't really want things to deviate too much from each other. So again, there's like kind of a balance that you have to strike there. But in your personal art journey, I would highly recommend to branch out and really experiment with different art styles, every medium that you can think of. Next up, we have tangents. This is a thing that I found out about a couple of years ago, and I'm absolutely guilty of still doing this in my work. Sometimes I don't pay attention to it. A tangent is when two lines in a drawing are really, really close to each other and they are almost touching or barely touching, and it's causing a lot of tension in the viewing experience. The viewer's eye doesn't really know where to go. The way to fix this is to simply plan out your composition before drawing. You can do really, really, really small sketches. Something that I've seen another artist do is that he made a small drawing of his character on paper, cut it out, and then made a drawing of the background and experimented with where he would place it with the background. On a larger scale, there could be more subjects in one picture, or you might have to move elements of the background around to be able to get rid of tangents. But a tangent can also happen on a one subject. So if a character's fingers are really close to their face and they're barely touching, but not really, it could be pieces of hair that are touching the eye. I know that I made this mistake recently, and one of my friends pointed it out to me, and I was very happy that he did. Next up, we have rigid, stiff poses, or drawing a character that's just kind of standing there. This isn't inherently wrong, and especially if you are making character sheets or references for yourself to use in the future, like if you're making a comic or a video game or something and you need to draw this character constantly, that's going to be really useful. But the average person doesn't really enjoy looking at drawings like that much. The way in which you could fix this is to pick up gesture drawing. This is also going to help you to become a bit more loose with your drawings. If you do gesture drawing and you do like 10 seconds one pose and 10 seconds another pose and 10 seconds another pose, you lose the pressure of having to draw things that are perfect and anatomically correct, and instead you're just capturing the movement and the fluidity. Another thing that I find that it really helps me to get rid of stiffness in my drawings is making a very, very loose, bad, terrible sketch and then refining that when I do my line work. So I will literally only draw like a circle for the head and a circle for the hips and like a bit of a body and kind of loosely where the hands are gonna go. And then I just refine that as I do my line work. But again, it could be intimidating at first, especially if you're trying to draw like dynamic or really fun poses and put that into perspective, and you got like a whole new can of worms. Lastly, I would say random shading. I was 100% guilty of this. I still am 100% guilty of this. I still do this sometimes, especially if I'm rushing through a drawing or I gotta get something done really fast. Usually I try to catch myself doing it and be like, hey, add a light source. And then it's fixed. Anyway, tell me if you are guilty of any of these or if you dislike seeing any of these in artwork. I had to search the pits of hell to get this information, and by the pits of hell, I mean Reddit. Reddit is like, you know those caves that they tell you to not go into because they have like a 99.9% mortality rate? Yeah, that's how I feel when I'm on Reddit.